All right, so this is going to be another video about integration using partial fractions, and we see this problem here. We can't actually simplify it or really do much of anything with it right now, so then we can kind of that's kind of a sign that we can just go right into using the partial fractions. To figure out the partial fractions, we are going to have to factor this denominator really quick. Okay, this should be a review as it's from Algebra 1, factoring this sort of thing out, so I'm going to go kind of quick on this. If you have any questions about what I'm doing, though, make sure you ask later. All right, so there we go. Now we have the factored form of the denominator, and I'm going to use this all the way up here for my partial fraction. So this is going to be equal to the integral from a over that first factor there, which is x plus 1, plus b over that other factor, which is 2x minus 3 dx. Okay, if I do the integral of this, you're going to end up with a times ln of x plus 1 plus b of ln 2x minus 3. It's got to be divided by 2 because the inner derivative of this is 2 plus c. If you want, you could use substitution on that, but it's kind of easier to use the rule where if the inner function there, the derivative of that is 2, you can just divide by whatever that derivative is if it's linear. Again, we need to figure out what a and b are for this problem to be complete. To do that, I'm going to have to use the fact that I know that 8x minus 7 over x plus 1 times 2x minus 3, so basically what we started with up here, is equal to a over that first factor plus b over that second factor. So you end up with something like that. Now we're going to use this to figure out what a and b are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by this denominator. Then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so once I do that, you'll see that this cancels with the denominator there, and you end up with 8x minus 7 is equal to, okay, now if I distribute this to this first term here, you're going to end up with a times 2x minus 3, since the x plus 1s are going to cancel. Then I'm going to do the same thing to this term here. You're going to end up with b times x plus 1. Okay, from here you're going to end up with 8x minus 7 is equal to 2a plus b times x. This and this and this and this, they have the x term in it. Minus 3a plus b. So minus 3a comes from distributing that, and I distributed that one here. Okay, so what this breaks down to is this part here needs to be equal to 8. Okay, so that means 2a plus b has to be equal to 8. And then the next thing is this whole part right here has to equal negative 7. Okay, with a little substitution, I would probably substitute for b here. So I'd solve for this b and then substitute it in here and solve. If you do that, you will end up with a being equal to 3, which means b has to be equal to 2. So once we do that, we can substitute those two values in up here to get the final answer. So then you would end up with this a being equal to 3. So I'm just going to write that in here real quick. 3. And then this b is 2, so it's 2 over 2, which is just going to be 1. And that ends up basically being our answer right here. So that's an example problem of integration using partial fractions. If you have any questions about anything in this video, let me know.